Welcome to Comic Power. I am your host, Comic Killer 72. Welcome to Wicked Wednesday, where we discuss all the new comics that's coming out this week. Every Wednesday is like Christmas for us nerds because that's when the new comics come out. These are my recommendations for the best books to pick up on Wednesday. But here's some other information first. Wicked Wednesday is not the only program I do. Go to my homepage and click on Playlist, and you'll see many different programs broken down in category. The top list, casting confirmations, Hollywood rumors, character study, comics for sale, and much, much more. When you click on a category, it will play all the videos in that category back to back nonstop. So you can just click on something and let it go. I recently did a video about Adam Hughes about how I think he's the best comic book artist in the game. And with samples like this, it's easy for me to say that. Go back and watch that video. It dropped on April 20th, 2017. But for now, let's get to New Comic Day. And DC Comics is giving us Batman Beyond #7. This is the feature Batman in the person of Terry McGinnis. This is part 2 of Rise of the Demon storyline. Bernard Chang is doing the covers and the interior work, and he's doing a great job. And Dan Jurgens is writing it. That's a great team. Next up is Batman The Shadow #1 of a 6-part miniseries, a collaborative between DC Comics and Dynamite Comics. This crossover makes sense because The Shadow is actually a character that is a big influence on Batman. He was first introduced in 1930 as a radio show voiced by Orson Welles on the narration. His first appearance in print is in The Living Shadow in 1931. And Batman borrows from the Shadow because the Shadow is a vigilante who goes out at night and cleans up the scum with a secret identity and dressed in black, just like Batman did when he debuted in 1939. So it's cool to see Batman and one of his early influences team up. There was a 1994 Shadow movie starring Alec Baldwin. I'm not making this stuff up. Unfortunately, it wasn't that good. They should do a Netflix series on the Shadow. It would be a good TV series. Next up is The Flash #21, and this is part 2 of the Button storyline. When DC Rebirth dropped in May of 2016, they gave us a huge clue that it may be linked to the Watchmen universe. In my video last week about Batman #21, we got our first taste of that. This promises to build up to something incredible. Once these two different worlds meet, they should let Alan Moore write it because he created Watchmen in the first place. Seriously, can't wait. Next up is Young Justice, which is going to a trade paperback. This is a team that includes Superboy, Impulse, Wonder Girl, Secret, and the Arrowette, with mentors like the Red Tornado and Nightwing. This trade retails for about $30, and it includes Young Justice issues 1 through 7, JLA World Without Grown-Ups #1 and 2, Young Justice The Secret, and Young Justice Secret Files #1, all compiled in one graphic novel. That's worth the money. Next up is the Speculation Pick of the Week. And that's going to be Unfollow #18 from Vertigo, which is a division of DC Comics. And this is the final issue of this series. And it's probably one of the best things you never read. The story is about a dying social media billionaire who's going to leave his fortune to 140 random characters, or whoever is alive at the time of his death, and he's dying from uncurable cancer. The recipients of the money will be whoever's alive at the time of his death. So these inheritors start coming up dead left and right because the people that survive want to increase their share of the pie. It's like a mix of the movie The Social Network mixed with The Amazing Race meets Survivor, with a little bit of the show Lost thrown in there. DC is partnering with ABC Television to turn this into a TV show in the future. It's non-superhero, so it doesn't need a lot of CGI, so they could film it pretty cheap, which means most likely will make it to television, especially since it's backed by DC, which is owned by Warner Brothers. So the money is there to develop it if they want to go for it. Unfollow #1 only has a print run of less than 11,000 copies, so it's pretty rare. You might want to get one now. This final issue will be about 6,000 copies, so it'll be even more rare, so get that too. The 140 characters have been reduced to just 1. Next up, let's see what Marvel is up to, and that's going to be Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider #1. The cover and the interior artwork is done by Mark Bagley. He's famous for the first artist to draw Carnage when he first appeared in Spider-Man 361 back in 1992. So his version of Carnage is the template on how that character should look. They're going to do a lot of variants for this, including this action figure variant. At one point in his history, Ben Reilly actually donned the costume of Spider-Man, which probably confused casual readers because they had no idea who Ben Reilly is and why was he being Spider-Man. Next up is Deadpool versus the Punisher. Deadpool is a merc for money, and Frank Castle the Punisher is a vigilante out for justice. A crossover with them battling each other makes more sense than a crossover between Deadpool and Spider-Man teaming up. Next up is Black Panther number 13. This is the first part of a new story arc entitled Avengers of the New World. The Black Panther title has been less of a comic book and more of a political thriller. Next up is Elektra number 3, and I really love the Elizabeth Tork covers. The question is, will this series be successful over time? Most Elektra series are canceled around issue 12. But hey, Marvel keeps trying anyway. In this version, which has more clothes on, she has set up shop in Las Vegas. She battles Arcade in this one, and he first appeared in Marvel Team Up Volume 1, number 65. Next up is Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur number 18. You might think this is kid stuff, but this character is hugely important in the Marvel Universe. It's been revealed that this fourth grader is the smartest person in the Marvel Universe. So Dr. Doom shows up. Of course he would show up. He would want to know that. Next up is Star Wars Darth Maul number 3 of a 5-part miniseries. Dude, it's Star Wars. Of course you're going to buy it. Although he was not used properly in the prequels, he's one of the coolest looking characters I've seen in the last 20 years. Next up is Weapon X number 2. And we got Old Man Logan, Sabretooth, Domino, Lady Deathstrike, and now we have Killer Cyborg showing up trying to take out all of the rogue Weapon X projects. Weapon X number 1 was the pick of the week 2 weeks ago, so you might want to continue this. It's a very interesting story. Next up is True Believers, Astonishing X-Men number 1. This is a $1 reprint of issue 1 from 2004 of this series. Next up is True Believers, Generation X number 1. This is also a $1 reprint of this 1994 series. The image title Gen 13 originally wanted to be called Generation X, but Marvel threatened to sue them. Apparently Marvel thinks that they can trademark a letter in the alphabet by threatening to sue. Next up is True Believers, X-Men Gold number 1, and this is kind of confusing because it's a reprint of Uncanny X-Men number 281, released back in 1991. Marvel has an X-Men Gold series going right now, so why they call this one X-Men Gold made this confuse people. I don't know why they're reprinting this issue and not 282, because 282 is the first appearance of Bishop. I don't know, maybe they'll do that next. But anyway, this reprint is just $1 as well. Next up is the current X-Men Gold number 2. And you better believe that Marvel combed over this very well because of the controversy, because in issue number 1, the artist put some subliminal messages in it, causing the prices to explode on issue number 1. If you got it, go ahead and flip it. The prices will crash as the controversy subsides. Issue number 2 also has this Adi Granov 1 in 25 variant as well. It's averaging about $35 pre-sale on eBay. People really love his stuff and they went crazy over the Elektra number 2. But as you can see, Marvel was ignoring the X-Men for a while and now they're promoting them again and giving you more than you ever wanted all at one time. It's either too much or not enough. They can't seem to make up their mind. Next up is our report on independent comics and small publishers. First up is There's Nothing Here number 1 from Black Mass Studios. On the surface of it, it looks like an expose on celebrity socialites who want to get famous like Kim Kardashian and Paris Hilton, whose fame isn't really built on anything. But this flips into a hallucination horror thriller when she gets invited into one of those eyes wide shut type of parties. Black Mask knows how to deliver on these edgy type of stories. I would get this. Next up is Joyride number 12 from Boom Studios, and this is the final issue of this great series. It was only supposed to be a 4-issue miniseries, but it was received so well that they extended it to 12. It's an adventure of 3 teens in outer space, from the same creative team that gave us Hacktivist. I would advise you to go back and get the trades. For example, Volume 2 of the trade just came out, which collects issues 5 through 8. Next up is Dollface number 4 from Action Lab Danger Zone, and they're crossing her over with Zombie Tramp. It's the same creator, so it makes sense. There are some nude variants of this as well, but I'm keeping my channel PG-13, so I won't be showing them here. The Cover D variant looks good. It's inspired by Alice in Wonderland, obviously. If you like your horror weird, then Dollface is for you. Next up is Aliens Dead Orbit number 1 from Dark Horse Comics. This is based off of the Alien movie series that started in 1979, starring Sigourney Weaver. Like Star Wars, Alien was a leap forward in terms of space science fiction. Next up is Conan the Slayer number 8, also from Dark Horse, and this may be one of the best books you're not reading. Cullen Bunn, the master of horror, is writing it, and the art is done by Sergio Davila, who's new to the comic game, but he's absolutely killing the interiors on this. To catch up, make sure you get Conan the Slayer Volume 1, Blood in His Wake, the trade paperback. It collects issues 1 through 6, so you can catch up on the 2016 reboot. Next up is Exo Man of War number 2 from Valiant Comics, and if you don't like this, there must be something wrong with you, because that looks awesome. The rebooted issue number 1 sold 60,000 copies, which is amazing for a indie to move that many units. The artwork looks remarkable, and the writing is handled by Matt Kent, who's a mad genius. He's the guy who's writing Ninjak right now, and the writer and the creator of Divinity. Since they're only up to issue number 2 on the reboot, this is a good jumping on point. If issue number 1 is sold out where you're at, then a second print of number 1 is also dropping this week. If you've been overlooking XO, he's a really cool character. He's a barbarian king with a high-tech suit of armor, and that armor is a living organism. He's like a mad mashup between Conan meets Thor meets Iron Man meets Venom. Damn right I'll have some of that. Next up is Britannia, We Who Are About to Die, number 1. This is the follow-up to the critically acclaimed miniseries taking place in the 60s AD in the Roman Empire, mixing real-life history with some science fiction. It's written by Peter Milligan, who's the creator of the modern version of Shade the Changing Man. The artwork is impeccable, and the writing is some of the best you're going to see from Pulitzer Prize novel level. If that sounds great to you, you should be picking this up. Next up is Bloodshot USA, the trade paperback. This collects all 4 issues of that action-packed miniseries. It also includes Bloodshot Reborn number 0, which is the first appearance of the new big bad, Project Omen, and the first mention of Bloodshot's future daughter. This is a must-have. Next up is Motor Girl trade paperback volume 1, Real Life. It collects the first 5 issues of this new series from Terry Moore, the same guy that gave us Rachel Rising. It's a sci-fi comedy story about a woman who owns a junkyard that gets visited by aliens. Next up is Hillbilly number 11 from Albatross Funny Books. This is written and drawn by Eric Powell, who's the same guy that gave us The Goon. It's a mix of horror and magic told in the Appalachian Mountains. Hillbilly number 1 made my list of the top 10 comics of 2016. Next up, and also from Albatross Funny Books, is Namwolf number 1. It's a story of a soldier that gets drafted in the Vietnam War, but he's secretly a werewolf. It was supposed to come out in February, then I heard it was coming out in June. The latest info I have is that it comes out this Wednesday. Ask your local comic store if they're getting it and when. There's a special variant that's drawn by Eric Powell himself, and it will retail for $6 instead of the regular $4. So we got a mashup of the war genre meets the werewolf genre. That's piqued my interest. Next up is No World number 1 from Aspen Inc. This indie seems to specialize in sexy superheroines in skin-tight uniforms with plenty of weapons. Hey, ain't that what sells? The company's founder, Dwayne Turner, died of cancer a couple of years ago, but the company he founded is still running. They have an archive of some of his stuff that was never released. So No World number 1 has the special Turner variant shown here. Dwayne is like the Tupac of comics. Even though he's gone, he keeps cranking out new material. Before we close, let's see what Image is up to. They're killing it so hard, they should be charged with murder. First up is Black Monday Murders number 5. This is the story of organized crime, banking cartels, the occult, and other elitists as they jockey for power. This is written by Jonathan Hickman, and this is not for kids. This is high literature for adults that are smart and want something challenging. Issue number 1 made my top 20 list of 2016. Next up is Kill or Be Killed number 8. It's a vigilante tale about a young man who's taking up arms against the bad guys at night. Imagine Kick-Ass meets The Punisher meets Moon Knight. Issue number 1 also made my top 20 list of 2016. Back after a long hiatus is Bitch Planet number 10. It's a story told about 100 years in the future where the world is run by a bunch of men called the Fathers. Women have to completely obey, if not, they're sent to an off-planet prison called Bitch Planet. It's created and written by a woman, Kelly Sue DeConnick, who's famous for being the creator and writer of the Carol Danvers version of Captain Marvel. You can describe Bitch Planet as feminist sci-fi. It was nominated for an Eisner for Best New Series, and issue number 1 came out in December of 2014. I don't think you have any idea how good this series is. Next up is Hadrian's Wall number 6 of an 8-part miniseries. This is another overlooked gem. A pill-popping detective has to go into outer space to investigate the murder of an astronaut on a space station. So it's a outer space sci-fi whodunit. Next up is The Old Guard number 3, and this is a tale written by Greg Rucka, who is currently writing Wonder Woman. It's a story of immortal mercenaries that will take the most dangerous jobs that no one would touch. So yeah, you could say they're sort of like the A-Team. Issue number 1 was a big hit, and it's going to a second and now a third print coming up soon. And last but not least is Surgeon X, the trade paperback, volume 1, Path of Most Resistance. I was very surprised this wasn't a hit. It's a story of the UK 30 years in the future where these new diseases are immune to our antibiotics. So a deadly plague devours England. But Surgeon X is saving people by using experimental medicine that has not been approved by the new fascist government. This trade paperback collects issues 1 through 6 of this series. It's up in the air if this series will continue because the artist John Watkins passed away from cancer earlier this year. I did a video on him showing off his best work that I published on February 24th, 2017. As we come to a close, as always, be sure to subscribe, give the thumbs up, and share these videos on social media so other people can learn about the channel. That's about it for today. Thank you for watching Wicked Wednesday, where I give you the best recommendations for new comic day. And every week it just gets better. Be sure to follow my blog at comicpower.net. On social media, follow me at facebook.com/comicpower.net and comicpower-universe.tumblr.com. And don't forget twitter.com/comicpowersub. I also sell comics on eBay at this link. This is Comic Killer 72 for Comic Power saying bye-bye. And don't forget to share this video, click on subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and tell everyone you know about this channel to help it grow. Thank you for your support.